Hey, I'm Deontay Jenkins, and here's what's on my mind. How to write a compelling character. Works every time. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Give this video a like if you like it, because that really helps me out. Check out some of the other videos that I have on this channel, like my latest short film here, or by hitting the link in the description below. And now that that's out of the way, characters. They're the heart and soul of every story. But a lot of people struggle with writing good ones. Why is that? If you make a character too good, he's unrelatable. If you make a character too bad, she's unrealistic. So where do you find that common ground that makes a really good and compelling character? Well, let's start by looking at character and characterization. What's the difference between character and characterization? Well, a character is very surface level. It's what the world sees. Think of it like this. The character is a mask. The characterization is who they are under the mask. Nobody is who they portray themselves as. I'm not as happy and well-spoken in real life. In real life, you have who you show yourself to be and who you actually are. It's no different in storytelling. So how do you show this? Well, a great way to show this is through contradiction. Take, for instance, Walter White. His whole character in itself is a contradiction. I can't think of a bigger contradiction than a science teacher turned drug kingpin. But even still, that's on the surface. We want to look a bit deeper. On the surface, he is this kind, soft-spoken family man. He even justifies his actions by saying he's doing it for his family. Being diagnosed with cancer and wanting to take care of your family even after you're dead is a very noble thing to do. However, throughout the series of Breaking Bad, you see Walter White's actions contradict that character. We see that Walter is selfish, brutal, greedy, extremely competitive, and arrogant beyond his normal persona.
I am the one who knocks.
You see, Walter's mask is that of the family man. But what makes him interesting is all of those contradictions to that. Speaking of a family man, another great contradiction is Vito Corleone. Don Vito is the ultimate gangster. He's a ruthless businessman, demands respect from everybody, and just a cold-blooded killer. And we see this throughout The Godfather and The Godfather Part 2. Gangster. Vito Corleone, head of a crime family, is a gangster. But that's just the surface level. Underneath, he is nothing but a soft family man who wants his family to survive and thrive in America. His mother was killed in front of his eyes. He made it to America and was treated like crap. Don Vito wants success, but he wants success for his family so his family can live a good life. Quite the opposite of Walter White. Walter does crimes because he likes it, whereas Don Vito does it because he wants to protect his family and he wants his family to thrive. We even see the Don's aversion to unnecessary crime and violence. Not who you would think the head of a mafioso would be. Francis Ford Coppola even gives us this beautiful scene towards the end of The Godfather of the Don playing with a child. This deepens the character of Don Corleone from just a plain old gangster to a family man. Whereas his son Michael goes more so down the path of a Walter White. At the beginning of The Godfather and at the end of The Godfather Part 2, Michael is a completely different person, completely contradicting who he was when he started. At the beginning of The Godfather at the wedding, Michael had no interest in being a part of the family business. It wasn't until his father was shot that he realized that he needed to step into it. And once he did step into it, he was consumed with power. Michael went from the timid college graduate in his family to then being more ruthless than his father ever was. Contradictions build characters and add layers to them, but it's not the only way to make a compelling character. Some characters are compelling because you don't know anything about them. Take, for instance, Anton Chigurh.
That's the way it is.
In No Country for Old Men, we don't know very much about Anton Chigurh. In fact, we don't really know anything about Anton Chigurh. We have little pieces of information that deepen his character though. The fact that he doesn't like to get his shoes dirty is one of them. You see Anton going out of his way to make sure his shoes are clean. But we don't have any backstory on him. We don't know where he comes from. We don't know where he goes at the end. All we know is that he's psychotic and he loves to kill. But those little sprinkles of information make us want to know more. Like, why doesn't he like his shoes to be dirty? It's like in real life. You see somebody that's interesting, that does interesting things, and you really just want to know more about them. But the less you know, the more you want to know. That's what made celebrities so popular before the age of social media. We didn't know that much about them. And the less we knew, the more we wanted to know. So any little bits of information that we got seemed like groundbreaking news. Take Captain Miller from Saving Private Ryan, for instance. Everybody on his team wanted to know more about him. They even went as far as to make bets on what his profession was outside of the military. That's because in the military, he was this hard-nosed, no-nonsense, get-the-job-done type of guy. And we weren't really given any information about him until towards the end. The majority of the movie, we we don't know anything about Captain Miller. We know he has PTSD. We know he's trying to get the job done. But because Steven Spielberg draws so much attention to the fact that we don't know anything about him, we want to know more about him. And you can give the audience that information that they're looking for, say with Captain Miller, or you can not, like Anton Chigurh. Beatrix Kiddo is a good example of both giving the information and not giving the information. Kill Bill is one 4-hour-long film that's split into two. Throughout the first half of the film, we don't know anything about the bride, not even her name. We know she was pregnant and we know she was betrayed by her former team. Besides that, what information do we have? She is an enigma. We want to know why the deadly Viper assassination squad betrayed her. We want to know who Bill is, who, by the way, is another mysterious character. We want to know how she's so good with the sword. There's so much information that we want to have, but we don't find out till the second part of the movie. Making a character mysterious makes the audience want to know more about them, which automatically makes them more compelling. Now, there's a difference between making a character mysterious and just having no information about them. You have to build the mystery to make the audience want to know more about them, not just have some random character doing random crap that nobody cares about. The final way to make a compelling character is to have them have flaws. Human beings are flawed. We see ourselves in other flawed human beings. So if you want your audience to connect with a character, make them flawed. Let us see that your characters have flaws and insecurities just like we do. A good example of this is Batman. Batman is a superhero. Superhero with no powers, but a superhero nonetheless. Now, it's easy to make a superhero perfect. They have a strong set of values and a moral compass that they just will not break, which is true in the case of Batman. What makes Batman so flawed is why he has these rules, why he has this moral compass. Bruce Wayne is a very flawed character. He can't seem to get close to a woman. He can't seem to let anybody but Alfred get close to him. He watched his parents get murdered in front of him. This resulted in him manifesting this character of the Batman and becoming a mass vigilante who beats up criminals at night. If we didn't have all this backstory and all these flaws with Batman, we would think he's a boring character. But we see ourselves in those flaws. We see our inability to make friends, or maybe a lost loved one, or maybe a lost lover. But just like Batman, we put on the mask every day. Sometimes our flaws aren't flaws that we want to admit. Take Joe Miller from Philadelphia. Joe Miller is a prejudiced man who hates homosexuals. He wants nothing to do with them, and yet he finds himself as the attorney for a gay man who's been wrongfully terminated for having HIV. We see the internal struggle throughout the entire film of him hating everything that this man stands for and wanting to do his job well. And then we see the two come to a head. When Joe starts to humanize Andrew, we start to humanize him a bit more. We all have our prejudice. We have things that we hate, people that we hate, and we can relate to that as an audience. Even if you're not homophobic, you can relate to not liking somebody. Everybody's a little bit prejudiced about something inside. You see this guy fighting for his client all the while being homophobic. That's a huge character flaw that he has, rather than being the savior to come in and fight for the rights of a homosexual man who's dying. There's so many ways to add depth to your character. These are just 3 of them. But I guarantee if you take any of these 3 and combine them, subtract them, use them on their own, whatever, I guarantee that you will find that your characters become instantly more interesting. And an interesting character sells a story. And that's what we all want, right? We want our stories to be heard, to be read, to be seen. And that starts with a compelling character. But then again, what do I know? Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. You can follow me right here on social media. If you like this video and you like what I'm doing here, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. If you have anything you want me to talk about, drop a comment down below. Keep telling stories, my friends, and I'll see you next time. Peace.